Hey everyone, it's Desiree, and I am here with Spellbinders and their card Kit of the Month for August 2020, and this month's theme is Around the World. So as always, let's start so that we can see what the contents are within the kit so that you will know what you're getting when you get yours, or if this just pulls you in to get your own. So as always, you get a card that tells you what's in your kit, and it also gives you some inspiration, just some ideas that you can use the contents from the kit. Your cardstock is a dark blue, a bright pink, a green, a light blue, a light green, a pink, a white, a gold mirror, and a bright yellow. As always, you get a roll of double-sided tape, and you also get a square of double-sided foam squares, which you can use the whole thing. 10 card bases, which are standard size, which are 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and these are side folding, and 10 envelopes to go along with that. You will get a full pad of 6 by 6 paper. So this is approximately 65-pound weight, and these are all the prints that come in this pad. You will get 2 of each of these prints. So lots of choices, lots of variation when it comes to that. A pack of pink sequins, some chipboard stickers to embellish your cards with or to use as your focal, these beautiful butterflies. For those of you that know me, I love butterflies. And then, of course, my favorite item out of this kit, the die cut pack. There are so many images here and so many sentiments, and the difference between these images is just great, from animals to plants to bikes to everything. Here is your stamp set, so some great images there that you can build upon, and as always your stamp set. So this will build a globe, but it'll also build a globe for what you want it to be with different scenes inside. The focus for me for this kit, what I was absolutely drawn to, were the die cuts. So we're going to make our 10 cards using the die cuts from this kit. So you can see I'm immediately drawn to the butterflies. And I grabbed some small tickets. Now these small tickets that I'm using are actually from one of the pattern papers. And what I did was I just cut them out. Because you can do that with your pattern paper. If there's an image that you want to make your focal, or you want to use it to be one of your embellishments, you can certainly do that. You can fussy cut it out, or usually for pattern paper you want to cut right along the edge of that. And that is what I did with that sheet. I wanted some of those small tickets to be coming from the 2 butterflies below. I'm going to use my liquid adhesive because I'm only going to put that down the center of the butterfly so that there is some dimension. I do go towards a liquid adhesive. You can certainly, though, use the double-sided tape that comes in your kit. It doesn't run out. I always have extra of the tape. Matter of fact, I've built up some. And even with the double-sided foam squares and the main square, I always have extras as well, because I do use every piece of it. I will cut that block up just to use it for dimension. I grabbed one of the other die cuts from the pack just to add that, and now I'm going to dig into the sequins. Now the sequins are pink and they have a gold iridescent look to them, and there's different types. There's solid light pink, there's a solid darker pink, there's an iridescent pink, so you have all kinds of choices within the sequins that you can put on your card. So that was our first. So our next card, grabbed a piece of the pattern paper. I'm going to use the double-sided tape to set this down. I will use my craft pick to remove the adhesive, and I will place this down onto my card base. All of the panels, the main panels that everything is sitting on, are cut to be 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I cut a rectangle from the solid cardstock, and I'm going to set that on an angle, and I'm going to use my scissors just to trim the edges off so that it's even with my card. Going to add, I grabbed one of those 3D butterflies, which are absolutely gorgeous, and I grabbed all of these, I don't know, tropical leaf, or leaf, whatever we want to call it, because I can't say it. I grabbed all of those images, and I'm going to create like a wreath out of these, and then I grabbed some of the darker blue leaves as well for an accent. I did also grab the chipboard, figuring that could add something special to it as well. And once I have these placed, then I will just glue those where I'm looking for them to be. And again, it doesn't have to be exactly where I have it. I'm just going to go around and just place those. You can use the press and seal. I could have used that to pick all of these up and then turn it over. Me and press and seal, we do not get along. We have not bonded yet. But for some reason, I don't know if I put too much pressure. It's me. I know it's me. Or if I'm not taking away the tack. But I always pull at my paper. So it's me. I'm putting too much pressure when it comes to that. But I mean, I'm okay. You know, it changes the look as I put this together. I have a basic idea of what this is going to look like. I am using some of that block that I had left over for my previous kit first to set my items in place. And then I'm going to set the chipboard piece down, and I am going to add some glue just to make that more secure. I'm going to carefully peel the butterfly off of the backing, and I'm going to set that right down in the center, so you just see a little bit of glimpse, little glimpses of that pink panel that I put in the background. And I'll use my scissors to even that up against the card. For our next card, I focused on the wildflowers from the die cuts. Again, taking a piece of my pattern paper, removing the release paper, and I'm going to set that down onto the standard A2 size card base. This one had a watercolor feel to it, and I thought that was perfect with the wildflowers. I'm going to take a strip of the gold cardstock and white cardstock, and you can see each layer that I'm putting on is just about 1/8 of an inch thinner than the previous. This helps to give some layers and also dimension onto my card. I am placing the double-sided foam down towards the bottom because I want to be able to place my wildflowers down underneath this panel. So I want them to come up from this panel. I'm going to make sure this is even by using the grid on my mat that I'm working on, and I will trim the edges again to make them even. Once that's done, now I'm just going to arrange my flowers. So there's some greens, you know, leaves. There's some pink and yellows. There's some gold accents on some of them. But I'm just going to combine all of these just to make a wildflower bouquet. Now you'll see I'll build this up and then I will take some away. You know, because I grabbed everything that was in the pack. And just by turning these pieces, you know, whether onto the side or pushing them towards the back, whatever, you can get a different look from each of those flowers. So even though you get 2 of each, you can have multiple looks of those images. So again, still playing around, showing the thought process of how I put these cards together. I do prep everything, and what I mean by that is, especially with the die cuts, I lay out all 10 card bases, And then I go through the paper pad, pull out the papers that I like, and then I just start laying them onto the card bases. Maybe one, maybe two. Then I start going through the solid cardstock to say, okay, I want to add this splash of solid color. And then I dig into all of the embellishments and I just start laying them down. And that's how I design those cards. I make sure everything's cut to a certain point so that when it comes time to filming, you get to see how the card comes together. You know, I still glue the pieces together, put the bases on and everything else, but usually I have everything already cut, stamped, colored, die cut if I go into the die cuts or the stamp set. So for this one, I'm using a piece of the white cardstock, and it's cut 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I'm going to take a piece of the gold mirror cardstock and I'm going to place that down, and I made sure it was even using the grid onto that I'm working on, my mat. I then took a piece of the pattern paper and I cut it, and then I made sure that there was a section cut out. So I didn't just slice down a section of it, I cut there and then I took a little bit more from another section. So that opening is actually going to straddle over this gold strip that I have onto my card base. I'm going to place the top down, and then at the same time I'm adding dimension. I've chosen some of the building die cuts for this one. So I have the Eiffel Tower. I believe that's the London Tower. Please, I'm sure someone will say, no, that's not it, it's this. And then I have some other buildings, some from New York, I'm assuming, and other places there. And I'm just looking at the placement because, again, I want them to come from that opening, but I still want that gold to come through the back. Again, using my liquid adhesive, I'm just going to tuck them down and let them stick to the top of the pattern paper. So just adding a little bit of glue and then pushing it down so that it'll stick to that top. So yeah, I mean, that's how I put them together. I mean, again, I'm just literally, you know, throwing them down, seeing what works, getting the collection. Because again, remember, this is a kit. It is geared for all of the pieces, whether it's the paper, the pattern paper, the solid paper, the die cuts, the chipboards, the 3D stickers. They're all going to match together. Doesn't matter what colors you go with. And that's the beauty of a kit. It comes already thought out for you. So you can just dig right in and put what you want together for that kit. I grabbed 3 of the flags with the names of the countries, like Paris, New York, and then I forget what this last one is. I'll see it in a second. London, of course. And those are pretty much going to be my sentiments on my card. Same thing, double-sided tape for my panel that's going to go directly down onto my card base. This one's going to have a summer feel, an outdoor beachy feel, maybe. Now, outdoor summer feel can also be sitting in your backyard, enjoying your back patio or just your backyard in general and the peace. So again, I'm using a piece of pattern paper, a piece of solid, and then another pattern paper, and I'm setting them offset from each other just to give that difference. And now I'm going to build my die cuts from that. So they're going to cross over the pattern paper and the darker solid paper, just to give it a little bit of interest for the card. You can see I use every piece of the double-sided tape. I found them there. I cut them for some reason, but still had them there, so they will help me prop that piece up. Of course, we've got to have some nice drinks to add to this as well. Who doesn't love a margarita? Well, there's probably many people that don't, but I'm a fan of the margaritas on the rocks. Oh yes. And it must be the original. So I'm very picky when it comes to my, well, let's just say I'm picky. We don't need to be talking about this, although it's not made for children. I'm going to add the sentiment from the die pack that says awesome. And then I'm going to add some sequins around just to give it some more sparkle. And as always, it's an odd number, but I do have them strategically placed. For our next card, kind of the same feel, but this one's focusing on a hotel. So again, focusing on getaways and spending time with family or spending time for yourself. In this case, this card is to relax. I did cut a thin strip of the gold foil paper, and I'm just going to set that down the side just to give it a little bit of an embellishment. Again, your cardstock alone, even your pattern papers, can be used as embellishments. Yes, you saw the vintage photo in there. You knew it was making an appearance, right? I'm just saying. It's always got to make an appearance. It is my staple. You know, when we talk about things that we must have close by us, the vintage photo and its ink applicator is it. At least for me, it's just one of those things. I just love the effect from it. I know some have said, you know, it's amazing that I would put it with pink or a light blue or any of those bright colors. But again, it does. It changes the look. Instead of it being bright and puts a smile on your face, it's still a pretty card, but it's going to tone it down just a little bit. It takes that brightness away. And that's okay. That's okay for some. Some may not. Some do. You know, it all depends. So you can see I've added some embellishments and propped them up. For our next card, we have a pattern paper panel that we're going to put down. And then I do have a strip of another piece of pattern paper, again, to accent this paper. It's very dark, and I'm sitting there, I'm reading it, because I saw the word Jersey. So I was wondering if, you know, like Philadelphia was in there. I was looking at the streets. Sorry. Yeah, get that in. So now I'm going to add some double-sided adhesive to this piece as well, and I'm going to place that down the side along the edge. I have a piece of the gold cardstock and also a piece of solid cardstock, and I'm just going to place that down on each other. So I'm almost creating a frame. Basically, I'm going to put the plant directly down the center of that pattern paper strip that we added. And I want that to sit right in the front. So it's almost like this is a wall. And all of these images are going to be attached in this photo. The sentiment that I chose obviously says journey. So I really did focus on the tickets that were in the die cut portion. I'm going to set this down, and then the word journey will be able to straddle against the chipboard and also the framed pieces. Now what's nice is with the chipboard, it's not super duper thick, but with the 2 layers that I used of the cardstock and the gold paper, I had plenty. It was an even plane, so I could just put the word journey down. I'm going to add just a few sequins to this photo. Again, just to add a little bit more interest to them. For our next card, we are still traveling. So lots of die cuts came into this, lots of groupings. I found with this one, when I was developing the die cuts that were going to be together, excuse me, they got very large. And I found I was using even the duplicates of them. I wasn't just using one. Sorry if you heard me gulp there. I had to have a drink of iced tea there. Because in your die packs, you get 2 of each image. So you do have lots and lots of abilities to create even more than 10 cards. So again, I'm using the boarding pass, I use the passport, the ticket to London, and then I'm using all of these medallions, let's say, for each of the areas that you can travel to. We're going to add a few tickets, and I'm going to prop up this last sentiment that's going to say adventure. I'm going to add some flag banners to each side and just throughout this piece. So we have Sydney, Milan, and then of course that one says departure. So this one's, while I have the departure on that card, this one is the arrivals. So kind of the same thing. I'm going to use that pattern paper. I'm going to place this right down onto my card base. You can see I have 2 strips of the gold foiled paper there. So I'm going to add those 2. I'm just going to put 2 strips of glue down and get those set. And then once I think they're even, I'll trim them and then get the other one in place as well. Oh, actually, I thought that one was good. Okay, so moving on. Again, cut a piece of the solid cardstock. So I get questions all the time, you know, why did I use the solid cardstock? Why didn't I use the pattern paper? For me, when you're using this number of die cuts, when you're collaging, and that's what I'm doing, I love to collage pieces to build up, to give that texture, to give that dimension to a card front. You can use a piece of pattern paper, but I want to make sure, especially if I am not using the vintage photo on these pieces, which I'm not. For me, by using a piece of the solid cardstock, that helps them to stand out. Each one becomes individual to your eye. If I used a piece of pattern paper and I did not use the vintage photo on these, they may get lost in the background. So that's what this one looks like. And again, I have a couple countries listed, and again, it says arrivals. And for this one, I'm going to focus on the tag and the adorable animals in this one. So again, if I use the piece of pattern paper, I would vintage photo around each of those die cuts. It will help to separate them. It'll help them to be able to stand out so that your eye will pick up on them, so that you'll pick up every image. Even though you're collaging, you still don't want your image to get lost. You still want it to be seen. You want the eye to be attracted to it. Now again, that's just me. That's how I look at a card. Some people may not care. They just want to do that because they enjoy that, and that's okay too. I mean, there is nothing where you can say, no, that's wrong. You can't do that. Please. It's ridiculous. So, okay, got enough. So I have a piece of solid cardstock. I have 2 strips of the pattern paper that I'm going to place in opposite corners. And then our solid cardstock with the mirrored is going to sit across them on an angle. So I've created these layers and broke up that background piece of cardstock, that black and white. It kind of now pulls itself out. By using those stripes, I pulled in just a little bit of white in there to break it up. The animals, I just fell in love with the way that these animals looked, the way that they were designed. So I'm using the tag and the elephant, and of course the leopard. And then I pulled in one of the 3D butterflies to make sure that comes in as well. So I have the triangle going on there of the animals coming onto this card. Now, be careful when you do pull out those 3D butterflies. They can tear very easily. So these are the 10 cards that we made using the Spellbinders card kit of the month for August 2020. And again, the theme is around the world. So again, as always with the Spellbinders kit, so many possibilities, so many ways. I gravitate for this kit to collage and to use those die cuts. Please make sure that you check out their gallery. I will have it listed below for the subscription. If you haven't already subscribed, you'll be able to read the information. I'm also going to have links to Spellbinders shop and also their gallery, and you will see so many other beautiful designs using this kit as well. And there, I'm sure they'll use the stamp and the dies also. If you have any questions, make sure you leave those down below as well, and I will make sure I get back to you as soon as I can. If you haven't already, I'd love for you to subscribe, be part of my group here. Make sure that you are continuously enjoying your day, whatever it is that you do. Continue to stay safe and healthy as we continue through our challenge. But always remember what's most important to me. Always be creative.